As a drummer, a heaven without drums sounds a little bit like hell to me. Is heaven going to be boring? Kind of sounds like it to me when I was a kid and to a lot of people today. In fact, the prolific science fiction author Isaac Asimov once wrote, "I don't believe in an afterlife, so I don't have to spend my whole life fearing hell or fearing heaven even more. For whatever the tortures of hell, I think the boredom of heaven would be even worse." Heaven can seem a little bit boring. I remember growing up thinking that it seemed like that it would be forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Forever, ever. It just keeps going on forever, and it would just be so boring because I've done everything I want to do, and now there's days after days after days for millions and trillions of years. That seemed a lot boring to me as a kid. Now, as a parent now of 3 kids and leading a church, I have not been bored in years, but I was as a kid, and I thought, man, I don't want to be bored forever. And that's what heaven seemed like as I lay awake at night fearing heaven. But I don't think heaven's going to be boring like that. The reason is we need to just distance ourselves from all of the popular depictions of what heaven is like in art, in TV, in movies, because heaven is not going to be like that. Heaven is going to be way better than what you think. Because in the popular depictions, heaven is like floating on clouds in diapers. And that sounds terrible. I mean, just the thought of the floating around in clouds up in the air, I don't like the sound of that. In fact, it reminds me of the terrifying ending of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Yes, that is a horror scene as they're floating closer and closer up to this blade of a fan that's going to decapitate them. That's scary. I don't want to be floating around forever. And I don't want to be in diapers either. That does not sound fun. I have kids in diapers. I don't want to be in diapers. Nobody does. We spend our whole life avoiding being in diapers. That's not good. Neither is the thought of playing a harp forever. Why a harp? I don't know. But I did see this one piece of artwork that literally had heaven on the top with these angels playing harps and stringed instruments and all the instruments of the orchestra. There's even an organ in there. But then down below in hell, where there's serpents and demons, they're playing drums. As a drummer, a heaven without drums sounds a little bit like hell to me. And I know some church people may love the thought of an organ, but I'm ready for something a little bit different. See, I don't think heaven is supposed to be anything like that. It's not supposed to be like a perpetual church service. You and I have both been to some very boring church services that we fall asleep in or cannot wait to be over. And when people think heaven is just going to be this perpetual church service, no wonder why they're terrified of the thought of that. Don't worry, here at Rice Church Denver, we never have boring services. But heaven is not going to be like that. Heaven is not going to be boring. It's not going to be floating on clouds and diapers. It's going to be way better by far than anything that you could think or imagine. In fact, the Apostle Paul himself describes going up into heaven. He has this vision where he's caught up into heaven in 2 Corinthians chapter 12. Well, when he talks about heaven in another book, in Philippians chapter 1, he says that being in heaven with Christ is better by far than anything in this life. It's better by far. He, as someone who's been there, caught up in who knows what in this vision into heaven, he says heaven is better by far than anything on this planet and anything our earth can offer. That's where I want to be because it is better by far. The food we're going to be eating in heaven, it's going to be a feast. It's going to be better by far than any food we eat here on earth. Even better than a double-double with a strawberry shake and In-N-Out burger. And if you don't think that that's the best fast food meal on the planet, leave your comment to prove to the world how wrong you are. No, it's going to be better by far to eat the food of heaven. To drink the wine of heaven is going to be better by far than the best bottle of wine from the Bordeaux region of France that you've ever had and paid $300 for. Heaven is going to be better by far. The fun and play and games that we're going to take part in heaven is better by far than anything we've experienced on this planet. And the moments of happiness will be better by far. It's going to be joy for endless eternity in heaven. Even the relationships we have, the love we experience here on earth is nothing compared to what's going to be better by far to the relationships and love that we will experience in heaven for eternity. So whatever you think of heaven now, if you're bored of it, if you're scared of it, if you're worried about it, heaven is going to be better by far than anything you can imagine. So how can that be? Well, that's what we're going to actually talk about in my series starting this Sunday. In fact, this first message in the series is all about heaven. And if you guessed it, the message is entitled Floating on Clouds in Diapers, because heaven is by far better than anything you can think in this earth. So be here for our series called Better Than You Think this Sunday at Arise Church Denver, April 8th at our 9 or 10:45 service. You can join us in person or online from wherever you are in the world. And then make sure you subscribe to these midweek moments on YouTube, because next week we are talking about whether we get to have wings.